ja, wie ich gesagt habe, wir haben hier heute auch wieder ein volles Programm. Wir haben Highlights mit Thorsten Kröger von Intrinsic nachher um 11 Uhr und Professor Hadderdem, die beide auch in so einem Art Fireside-Chat mit dem Armin Banitzke, mit dem Chefredakteur der Automationspraxis, über ja, die Robotik der Zukunft und über spannende Themen, KI etc. sprechen werden. Ich glaube, es wird sehr spannend. Dann gleich im Anschluss nochmal ein Panel zum Thema Robotik im Handwerk. Wir haben ja die ganze Woche über auch so versucht, über den Tellerrand zu schauen und eben Robotik nicht nur so Industrieprozessen uns anzuschauen, sondern auch zu gucken, wo kann auch die Robotik in anderen Bereichen des Lebens ja, unterstützen. Und da geht es eben heute Mittag dann um das Thema Handwerk. Und dann haben wir nochmal um 15:20 Uhr eine Podiumsdiskussion zur mobilen Robotik. Auch das wird auf jeden Fall sehr interessant, sehr spannend und dazwischen immer wieder viele Vorträge zum Thema Digital Twins. Ich schaue jetzt hier gerade zum Thema ja, Offenheit, also offene Plattformen und KI, wie man damit auch die Zukunft der Robotik gestalten kann. Und Leichtbaurobotik, ein weiteres Thema. Morgen wird es dann viel um Elektromobilität gehen und wie Roboter zum Beispiel bei der Batteriefertigung unterstützen können. Und jetzt aber geht es darum, wie Robotik und KI den Logistic Workplace für Tomorrow, um das jetzt mal irgendwie so auf Englisch gesagt zu haben, unterstützen können. Also es geht um Logistik und Robotik in der Logistik. Und darüber wird Bastian Snaterse sprechen von DHL. Und da ist er, bitte, stage is yours. Wir haben schon Wasser?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Perfect.
I think the mic works, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, cool.
Bitte schön.
So I first need to apologize that I don't speak German. So I am Dutch. I had some years of German in my high school, but it didn't really stick. So I'm going to present in English. Sorry for that. Can you? Yeah, you can see my screen. Can I see the slides here? I'll introduce myself, Bastian Snaat. I'm a director in a global team at DHL Supply Chain, working on accelerated digitalization. What accelerated digitalization is about, we'll touch that. And I'm happy to be here, of course. I try to have some time for questions at the end of the presentation, so please, voila. DHL Supply Chain is part of what is still today the DPDHL group. We're going to have a name change as of the 1st of July, which is Saturday. We're going to be the DHL group. We are specialized in contract logistics and managed transport, and we are the largest logistics provider doing that. That means that we have the most international footprint. We work in over 50 countries. We have 1,500 plus warehouses with 40 million square meters of storage or operating area. And we have over 10,000 trucks that we own and even more that we manage. Why is that important? We believe we sit on a lot of expertise and we believe we sit on a lot of data. You can imagine that all those operations, all those systems that we use, they generate a lot of data. We also have a lot of experience with digitalization. We track deployments, we track where we use what, and we see that 80% or even more of our operators, people working on the shop floor, already have some sort of touch with a digital solution. And of course, we work with a lot of partners. Although we recognize that we value the opinion of our customers most, we are also very happy with Gartner, recognizing as one of the leaders in the industry on execution, but also vision to complete. And innovation, as you can see in the text there, is part of that or key of that. You can Google that and find it online. So if you want to know more, don't hesitate. And where do we focus on when we talk about accelerated digitalization? I think there is a split between robots or solutions that really help us to do the physical activities in a warehouse. That goes to fully autonomous AGVs, for instance, that do horizontal and vertical moves. That goes into goods-to-person technologies like AutoStore. And I think they have a booth somewhere at this fair as well. Those are robots that place and pick bins from which people can pick, but it's also assisted picking robots that help people in the heavy lifting of transport of goods, while the actual picking of goods is still done by people, because that's where we believe we can still do that best. Other things like supporting robots, cleaning, dimensioning, I mean, that's all part of that. Sortation is becoming more and more important. I think there's a lot of robotic arm type of solutions here as well on this fair. We also use that for pick and place activities in sortation processes. Also robots that can help us do that. If you then look at the data part, asset tracking and monitoring, or IoT, we have a lot of sensors that we put on a lot of assets. They generate data like location, temperature, shock, and then we bring that into a platform where we can actually make that into, or turn that into an information. What does it mean? Is that an exception? Is that as expected? If it is an exception, what do we need to do then? So I think looking at data analytics, that's really bringing all that together. I mean, there's a lot of data that we get from systems. There's a lot of data that we get from sensors. There's a lot of data that we get from automated systems or robots. We all bring that together, or we try to bring that together. I mean, we can still improve, I guess, to see, okay, how can we use all that data to not only look at those elements in silo, where is that shipment, where is the robot, what is the next activity, but really look at that end to end. So how can we optimize that end-to-end operation for ourselves? I mean, operation drives profitability, but of course also for our customer, because efficiency drives customer engagement as well. If you then look at this graph on the right, the number of implementations that changes every day. I think more important is that we see a progression there. We started a couple of years ago, we started small. Now we see a real uptake of all those technologies being deployed. And it means that, going back to the previous slide, more and more people are engaged with those type of solutions, more and more data is captured, and more are we able to really bring that all together and utilize that. This is a visual of how that, we don't have a warehouse that actually looks like this, but it's a warehouse how, bringing all the things together. A couple of things that I want to mention there. It is really end-to-end, going from inbound transport, unloading, put away, picking, value-added services, but also delivery to the end customer. You see a lot of different technologies, and we don't believe in one size fits all. There's always going to be that requirements, that product specifics that drive a different type of solution. Also what you see there's a lot of flexibility. Customers don't stay the same in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or even the next 6 months. Also the products change, the customer requirements change, so we need to be able to cope with that. Two other things there. One is, I think, also very important. You see a lot of people in that warehouse as well. We don't believe in a standard lights-out warehouse in the next 5 years or so. Sure, we're going to have 1 or 2 for very bespoke customer solutions, but in the end, we believe we still need a lot of people. We also have data on that. Although we deployed a lot of robots and automation, in that same period of the last 4 or 5 years, we also added, I think, 40,000 people to our workforce. So it doesn't really mean that robots replace people, it's really robots supporting people. Maybe stating the obvious, I guess you guys, being in a fair as this, you have a bit of understanding about robots and AI. All these solutions use sensors like camera vision, sensor technology. That data is put in their robotic management systems, in their robotic control systems, in their order management systems. We can call it AI, we can call it machine learning, we can call it data analytics. I think all of that, the important thing in there is, it is already there. It's an integral part of a lot of these robotic solutions. So how do we do that? How do we look at those opportunities where we can find good technologies, see where they really make sense? And basically it's pretty simple. We have a funnel approach. So we work with a lot of partners, with a lot of vendors, with a lot of people that visit fairs like this to say, okay, what's out there? What's new? What could be different than the things that we know already? So we look at that, and then we really try to use that, a POC, bring it to a warehouse, bring it into an operational environment, and try if it works. And actually, I'm going to show you a video of I think, an interesting solution that is from Boston Dynamics, so US-based, also implemented for the first time in the US, which is their stretch solution. The video, I mean, there's people talking in the video, so I hope that works and I can be quiet.
So Stretch is a pallet-sized footprint. That means anywhere in the warehouse you can take a pallet, you can take Stretch. It can move in omnidirections, so it can move left, right, forward, back, go in circles. It has an arm that has a 6.5-foot extended reach or a 10-foot vertical reach. It can use that to reach all the different corners of the container.
You know, it doesn't have any pre-trained information. What it's doing is detecting the boxes, modeling them, and the robot will actually go pick the box. The only amount of fixed infrastructure are these side panels here that collapse into the wall and allow operators and workers to unload dock doors that you may not be using Stretch in at the moment.
Even when a box drops, when it's inside a container, it continues to take pictures of its current environment and makes adjustments and picks that box up and continues to move forward.
When the box falls, he move that, look around, and then pick it up. I love it.
What I really like about the video is actually the last part where that lady is really excited about, you know, working with that robot. But I think why is this important? You know, getting boxes out of containers. You would be surprised about the number of containers that we get to our dock doors every year. It's millions. And having to get those boxes out is today a very manual solution, or, you know, we need to do it manually. That means that people, typically a bit more muscular than I am, go in and, you know, get all those boxes out. That's not really an ergonomic environment to work in. So that's where we really believe that robots are going to add value to our operations. Boston Dynamics is, I think, an industry leader. We've been working with them for a couple of years. They have this product now. It works in the first warehouse. We're looking where we can deploy next in NORAM, so North America. As we do that, we look at how things can be improved. You know, boxes fall, the robot will stop. So why is that happening? How can we avoid that from happening in the future? Work with that vendor to make sure that they improve their product, but also work with our operations to make a better operational environment where it can actually work. So what we're doing with Stretch and what we're also doing with Fox Robotics, the second video that I'm going to show, is productization. And productization basically means that we're going to make it as easy as possible to implement. Where does the solution fit? How can we, you know, look at my operational profile and see if it fits? What is the do's and don'ts? The contracts with the vendors. So how can we use those contracts and really deploy fast? IT integration, data protection, you know, the compliancy stuff is also important. And then we work with a lot of you know, sites that implement, saying, how do we implement? Make those playbooks of lessons learned, you know, things that went well, things that didn't went well. How can we avoid those things from happening in the future? And basically hand that over to the next operation, the next site where we want to implement that solution. So Fox Robotic, also NORAM. Maybe, you know, if you look at the hotspots from robotics, Germany, of course, but also China and the US. So yeah, you see a lot of the American solutions here. Fox Robotic is actually also an unloading solution, but then of pallets. Here you saw the truck or the trailer, you saw the pallets, which actually looked quite nice. That's not always the case. So there's a lot of pallets that are slightly, you know, tilted, or they're not so nicely packed. So there's a lot of operational complexity for these type of solutions to actually operate. So the computer vision is key in that technology, and computer vision, of course, has a camera, but also an AI component. So again, a combination of AI and robotics that in the end make one solution. So once we productize, along the productization, you see we have 20 deployments now, so we deploy, but we also look how can we make that circle of productization complete, and then we really look at how can we scale things, I mean, large. And the next example is, I think it's Locus. So these are assisted robots. Thanks. So these are robots that actually support people. They drive autonomous, they find the next pick location, they meet the operator at the pick location, there's a screen that tells the operator where to pick from, what to pick, where to put, and then the robot will go either to the next location or bring it to the pack station. What is very interesting there is that they can be put into an existing environment. You don't need to change that much. Aisle width is important, but as long as you have like 1.20 meters, then it's okay. And then you can basically get started. You need to get the integration, of course, but yeah, it's relatively simple. And that's also why we have already deployed over 2,000 or even 3,000 of these bots globally. Again, this is a US-based company. We started in the US, but already soon we worked with them to bring them to Europe, to the UK, and now we're bringing them to Australia and other parts of APAC. So we work as a partner of these type of vendors to really make sure that they can also deploy in other parts of the world. So that's all about robotics and the combination of robotics and AI. We also look at other data analytics and AI solutions, again in a funnel approach. What's out there? What are the needs? What are the requirements? What can we find? What can we start using? That's a combination of things that we find on the market, but also things that we develop internally. Again, why can we do that? We have a lot of facilities. We are the biggest player. We have a lot of people that we work with. The robotics on the bottom right we talked about. Inventory accuracy is of course key, first and foremost for our customers. You wouldn't be willing a customer to place their order online saying, well, you're going to get it delivered tomorrow, and then an hour later you get a message that all of a sudden that product wasn't available after all. But also for our internal operations. If we don't have inventory, we can't pick and we need to go into an exception loop. Safety. I talked about a lot of people working in our operations. Safety is key, top of mind in the warehouse, but also in transport. So how can computer vision, sensors, other solutions recognize an environment, recognize this potential hazardous situation, and then either signal or even act. You can also combine that into a reach hook, for instance, and have it stop when there is an unsafe situation recognized. The one thing that I had to put on the slide, of course, is the generative AI, so the chat GPT and the likes. Been over the news for the last couple of months, where we believe the biggest opportunity is not only what it is today, where it sits on a lot of public data, but we believe we can actually do more when we apply that same AI on our internal data, proprietary data. And potentially even better when we start to combine those two together. So that's what we're doing now. We're identifying those use cases. We're working with those vendors, of course Microsoft being one, that we can really start to do that. And I think the thing that is of essence there is speed. As you see how fast these things are being adopted, we need to be, well, at least not the last one doing that. Yeah, so kind of summarizing, we have a lot of vendors we work with, we have a lot of data, we have a lot of assets, a lot of people. We work with a lot of companies in IT. The ones that you see here, Blue Yonder and Manhattan, are the key WMS providers. There's a lot of other companies that we could put in that bucket. On the top you see the robotics vendors and automation. Again, they generate a lot of data with their robots. They use it to optimize their own solution. But by making that available to us as a customer, combining that with other data, we believe we can do even more. Then finally, I'm not going to go into detail. Of course, there's a lot of dedicated use cases for data analytics and AI. We can probably put a number of other use cases here. I'm just going to mention a couple. Network inventory and diagnostics. If we have a global customer, we have probably a number of warehouses where their inventory sits. So how can we use inventory levels or optimize those inventory levels in the different warehouses? Of course, more internal, but also very important, invoice overdue risk. We send a lot of invoices. They ideally get paid in time. If that doesn't happen, we need to start into chasing that. So AI can help us to do that more efficient. Whereas volume forecasting, it sounds overly simple. We do it already 40 years, but we believe we can do it better because it is effectively the core of our business. If we know what's going to happen tomorrow, if we know how many people and other resources we know we need tomorrow, we can be very efficient. The trouble that we have in logistics is that we typically don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we put in a lot of safety, waste, additional people, additional resources, additional robots, waiting for work to come in. And that's what we think we can change, gradually over time when we get a better understanding of that forecasting. I'm not sure how I'm on time, but this was actually my last slide. So this is just playing on the back, but I can take questions if there's any.
So, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. Ja, gibt es Fragen? Are there any questions?